It's great because when you're coming today thinking about buying a new home, knowledge is power. So it's very impressive that so many people are wanting to learn about first-time home buyers and making sure that they have the education. Buying a home is the second most stressful thing in someone's life. So we're hoping to be able to alleviate some of that stress by giving you knowledge in order to prepare yourself for your first home. My name is Ingrid Roche Murphy, and I'm the Provincial Government Employees Credit Union. And this is Michelle Murphy, and she's with Genworth Canada. And over the next little while, we'll be doing a presentation. We will also be able to give you resources to refer to afterwards, and then of course, feel free to answer any questions. So the overview that we're going to have is we're going to have home ownership, explore your choices, own a home, because you can do it easily, and experience Provincial Government Employees Credit Union difference. So just to tell you a little bit about Provincial Government Employees Credit Union, and then Michelle will tell you a little bit about Genworth. We were formed 80 years ago, and we were formed by two provincial government employees who were literally sitting in the lunchroom, probably not one as big as this, and one gentleman was complaining that he was paying too much in mortgage fees and interest rates, and the other gentleman was saying that he wasn't getting enough in his deposits. So in the lunchroom, 80 years ago, they said, well, why can't we help each other? And if there's you and I, and we're working with the provincial government, there must be more of us. So fast forward 80 years, and we're still here serving public servants, full service financial institution with lots of unique features and benefits for civil servants. And one of them, of course, is helping you own your first home. And Michelle Murphy.
Right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this sunny afternoon. It's great. It means you're keen and you want to learn. My name is Michelle Murphy, and I'm an account manager with Genworth Canada. Show of hands, how many of you have heard of Genworth? One. You usually get no one. That's great. So I want to say a big thank you to Ingrid for including me today. Genworth Canada is one of 3 mortgage insurers in Canada. And we have been in the country now for 25 years. We are a global company. But what we do is we work with lenders and partners, just like the Provincial Government Employees Credit Union, to help bring affordable and accessible homes to you. First-time home buyers is mainly the individuals who we work with, but we even see people who are buying for the second time and third time as well. If you are putting for a down payment, we're going to get more into detail on this in a minute, less than 20% by law within Canada. So it's the policies that are made to make sure that we have secure homes with industry. We have to pay a premium to one of the 3 insurers. So it's either Genworth, CMHC, or Canada Guarantee. So I wanted to show you a little bit about how we fit into the industry together. So Provincial Government Employees Credit Union, as well as Genworth, and what this looks like when you jump into buying a home, which is so very exciting. So you start with something called a pre-approval. Do you want to mention just a little bit about what a pre-approval is? So you come in and you see your friends at Provincial Employees Credit Union, and they are going to work with you on this, the pre-approval.
So what we're going to ask you first, when you first come in and sit down, or online, or whatever is the best way that you'd like to start the process, or on the telephone, we're going to ask you some key questions, as is every financial institution. So what you have to have ready for that financial institution is you would have to have proof of employment, your pay, how long you've been there. So we, of course, being provincial government employees, we don't require actual letters because we can just go right online and see what department you're with, and the only thing we ask is, are you term or full-time? But often it can be a little more convoluted with a different institution, and depending if you have a partner and what their employment is. We then will run a credit bureau on you. That is so important. So the average good credit bureau score is about 680. Okay, so there's some, I mean, it goes from 489 up to 880. So you want to make sure that you're paying your bills on time, that you're not maxing out your credit cards, that you have good credit. That's very, very important. And then we're going to ask you what your down payment is. And we'll get into that in a few minutes. So those are the three key things that we're looking for. Now there's some other questions, of course, like where do you live, how long have you lived there, how long have you been at your job, but those are the three key components. And we want to make sure when we're doing that you can afford a house, and how much can you afford? And on our, in the handout, it shows, if you go on our website, provincialemployees.com, there are actual calculators on there, and you can put in your specific information, and it'll show you based on what you make and what your bills are, how much of a house you can afford. So that's the pre-approval process. We're not pre-approving the house you're buying, because that goes over to Genworth or CMHC or Canada Guarantee. But we're pre-approving you. Okay?
And so after that, so they'll say, go, look for a house, here's the amount that you can afford, and then you meet with your real estate agent. Sometimes you may find a house and you might buy it privately, but usually you work with a real estate agent and you're gonna make an offer to purchase on that property. So they'll work with you with that and you say, okay, negotiate your price, and as soon as you have that property and your address, you come back in to the credit union and they approve you, as they did at the beginning, as well as that property that you're purchasing. So they look at all kinds of different things, values, condition, all that good stuff. And as soon as they have that approval, if you're putting less than 20% down for your down payment, it comes down to the insurer, which is me and my sandbox where I play. So we have Genworth or CMHC. So those are the two main providers that the credit union does work with. And the great thing is that sometimes when you look at different lenders, some will only work with one, and some don't necessarily have the choice of which insurer. When you work with provincial government employees credit union, they have the choice. And they have the option to work with those, especially where it comes to different products, which you'll see that coming down the pipe. It's a wonderful opportunity. So that's a great thing. And then after we approve it, we take a look at you and your property as well, and then we say, yes, it's approved. Then it goes on to your lawyer, and you're gonna sit with a lawyer. They're gonna go through all the conditions. You're gonna sign that paper, and then you'll take possession of your home. And they'll give you your keys, and then you'll stand in that house and you'll think, oh my gosh, this is a big deal.
And then the stress goes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, you said something about 20% down payment. Can you please repeat that point again?
Let's talk about this. This is what we're gonna talk about next. So perfect segue.
Yes.
So there's two types of mortgages, and this is kind of, industry lingo, but bear with me here. So there's two types of mortgages. There's something called a conventional mortgage. So a conventional mortgage is where you have saved, or maybe it's not saved, it can be gifted as well, 20% for a down payment. So 20% of whatever that house price is, that would be your down payment. What a conventional mortgage means is that you do not need my company, Genworth or CMHC. You literally save that 20%. This is where we see a lot of first-time buyers land.
I would say probably for applicants we see, 95% of first-time home buyers have go through Genworth, because if you're buying a $400,000 house, you may not have $80,000 that you save for that house over the years. So, I mean, sometimes you have a rich relative, or you're, on the lotto, or you're at the Moosehead game and won the 50-50, then you may. But I would say 95% of the people we see for first-time home buyers, and a great majority of second-time home buyers as well, are going through, going with the 5%. Less than 20%. Yeah, less than 20% down.
And that's for us too. Many times for those who we insure, first-time home buyers. So the difference is something called a premium payment. So think of car insurance. You gotta pay a premium when you have your insurance. The same with us within the mortgage industry. If you're putting less than 20% down, you have to pay a premium. The premium write this down, is on the mortgage, not on the house price. Okay, so whatever premium you're paying is on the mortgage. And it'll be as little as 5%, we're gonna talk about that down payment, but the more money you put down, then the lower that premium is going to be. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that in a moment.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
So you said if it is less than 20%, you have to make a premium on the mortgage.
On the mortgage amount.
So what's the difference between the mortgage amount and the house price?
So the house price is what that house is being sold for. So say you have, I'm just gonna go to this scenario. Say you have a $250,000 house price that you're gonna buy, okay? Then your down payment, you would calculate your down payment. So maybe you're putting 5% down. So the 5% comes off the house price. Your mortgage amount is the sale price minus your down payment. That's your mortgage amount. Okay.
And on that one, you have to pay a premium.
That's right, okay? This scenario right here was me. When I first bought my house, it was well before I was working for Genworth. I was stressed out. I just needed a little bit more hand-holding. But this is what I did. So I had two options. I could put 20% down and I could save for $50,000, to which I laughed out loud because I would be waiting for years. Or I could put 5% down. So I saved $12,500. Few legal fees, Ingrid's gonna get into some of the cost as well. But that was the amount where I said, I can make it there. I can do that. So I started saving and away I went. And it allowed me, and this is what our company does and what CMHC does, it allows you to jump into homeownership now so that you can build that equity, and at some point you may move to another property at another time. But it allows you to get started, right? So that's what that 5% does. So I put 5% down, so I did have to pay that premium. The premium for 5%, just to give you an example, if you put 5% down, is 4%. So we just had that conversation about it would be 4% of my mortgage amount, okay? So that is how that works, the overall picture. Is that confusing or are we okay with this? Following me? Okay, we're good. Anything you wanna add or we, okay?
Well, I just wanted to add as well that if you have the 20% down payment, then financial institutions can say if you're buying a $500,000 home and 20% down, so you have a lot of skin in the game. You have $100,000 in equity, so they know chances of you not being able to afford that house or something going south and you're not walking and saying I can't do this anymore. Here are the keys is very, very low. However, if you only have 5%, so if you're buying a $250,000 house, you have 5% down, it's $12,500. And in Canada, the regulations say, well, if you only have $12,500 skin in the game, if the markets go down and now you're thinking, well, my house is only worth $220,000 now, I'm not going to pay my mortgage anymore. Where Michelle's company and the regulations in Canada come in is they say we can't have financial institutions losing money if the markets go down and if people can't afford their houses anymore. Hey, you insure them. So that's where they come in. So the 5%, although you're paying a premium of insurance like you would for car insurance, it's protection for all financial institutions in Canada in case you can't pay your mortgage. Then Genworth is going to pay your mortgage off. And you never want that to happen, but extenuating circumstances, and that's why the regulations come in, and in Canada we have to use insurers.
And because that risk is absorbed, you can have lower down payments and some really great product offerings, which we're going to talk a little bit about in a moment. One question that I always get is, so I have to save a down payment and the amount for the premium? No, you don't. The premium just gets rolled onto your mortgage. You do not pay it. You pay it, but it's in your mortgage payment over however long you have that mortgage, okay? So it's only paid once and it's within your mortgage payment. So you don't have to worry about saving for both. Make sense? Okay. Great, so let's talk a little bit about down payments. So when we look at down payments, cash is really if you saved, where that money comes from. A gift is usually from an immediate family member. The great thing working with the credit union though is that